God bless you, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for another opportunity again to share the word with you. Today I'm going to be continuing the part 2 of our series on what is your purpose. However, I'm going to be focusing today about finances. I know when it comes to the subject of finances, many people don't want to listen to it, while some are very curious to know about how to manage their finances as young people. Every time the Bible teaches us, it also brings in the subject of money. And money has been a very controversial subject for many years. However, no matter how much we pretend, we will always need money as people. Be it whether you're spiritual, whether you're physical, we all need money to run our lives, to run our families, to run different aspects of our life in order to make our life much easier. However, money is an asset which helps to assist our day-to-day living on earth. Money is sometimes called currency. Well, it's a mobile thing. It moves from hand to hand, it moves from place to place, from country to country. But no man is born poor. Even if you're born in a very poor environment or born in a poor family, no man is born or made by God and God says, "Thou shalt be poor." No man is born that way, because your wealth starts from within, not from without. It starts from inside of you. You can either be poorer or richer than the family you're born into. For example, if you're born in a house where you consider poor, you have the chance of becoming richer than your family or poorer than your family, but you never leave it the same. Before I go to that, I would like to go back to the basics for us to define what poverty is. Now, I'm going to give my own definition. I'm not going to use the worldly standards with defining poverty. Poverty is when you lack money to provide yourself basic necessities for survival. Now take note, I said basic necessities. I didn't say what you want. I said provide yourself with what you need. So when I talk about necessities, I'm talking about food, clothing, shelter. So if you have enough money to provide yourself with these three things, then you're not considered poor. Because your poverty, or what you call poverty, might be somebody else's wealth. For example, in the UK, someone earning £1,000 might be considered poor. Well, the person is going to be classed as a poor person, basically. But if you took that same £1,000 to another country, excuse me, that person would be considered very wealthy. Because the £1,000 in the UK would not do much for him. But in another country, it's going to do a lot for that person. In some countries, £10,000 can build you a very comfortable home. In the UK, £10,000 wouldn't even buy you a plot of land. That's because one area could be different from another, or your wealth could be another person's poverty, or your poverty could be another person's wealth. I want to say something to you, and I want you to reflect on it. In life, you might never have the opportunity to be rich twice. And so the opportunity God gives to you must be taken very seriously. God will always open you a door to become wealthy, but it is how you use it that will determine whether that door will remain open or shut. In order for you to understand how money works, I'd like to give a simple illustration. I know if I should ask you, who do you consider a rich person? Someone who earns £5,000 or someone who earns £1,000? You'll likely say, well, the person who earns £5,000. Well, that's according to earthly standards of wealth or poverty. However, in reality, we don't look at how wealthy a person is based on how much they earn. We look at how wealthy a person is based on how much the person has left or how much you retain at the end of the month after your expenses. So let's say John earns £5,000 a month. So John spends a lot of money. He buys the latest gadgets, he buys a phone, he buys shoes, he buys suits, he buys these, he buys that. And at the end, John is only able to save £100 out of £5,000. Then you have Mary, who earns £1,500 a month. She's not the type who spends a lot. She's very careful and considerate how she uses her money. She just spends probably £200 and she's able to save £1,300. Between John and Mary, who is wealthier? Mary definitely is, even though she earns just £1,500 and John earns £5,000. But in the eyes of the world, John will be seen as wealthier, which is typically wrong. Mary is wealthier because she has enough left to do as much as she wants to do. A lot of people end up being poor because they don't know how to manage money. They spend more than the end. So every time the salary comes in, the first thing to think about is, what next should they buy? Oh, there is an iPhone coming out soon, I need to buy it. That person will always be poor. That's a guarantee. Unless you have so much that you can spare. But if you have the spending spirit or spending nature or mindset, you will definitely end up being poor. That's the first thing I want you to reflect on. How do you spend your money? What do you prioritize on? When you want to buy something, think about the long-term benefits of it. If you're going to buy a phone, think about its long-term. Am I going to use this phone for a long time, or am I just going to use it for 6 months? If you're going to use it just for 6 months, that is really not worth it. Because believe it or not, there's always going to be a new phone that will be created every 6 months. And after that, it becomes obsolete. Now, what these technology giants do is that they trick you into believing you've bought the fastest or the latest gadget. So they create a phone and tell you and promise you, well, you see, this phone is 3 gigabytes of RAM. It's fastest. It's the fastest. It's very strong. It's durable. And you get excited because you don't know these things. Then you buy a 3 gigabyte RAM phone. It's faster. That's true. 2 months later, you start doing lots of updates. They tell you the apps need to be updated because it's getting slower. Then you find one app consuming up to 1 gigabyte of the RAM. So you're now left with 2 gigabytes of RAM. Then 2 days later, Facebook, Instagram, and those heavy users eat up, through an update, they eat up 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now you're barely struggling with 200 megabytes or 100 megabytes of left RAM. What happens? Your phone, your so-called beautiful new design, becomes very slow again. Then they now tell you, well, you see, you have to update to the latest phone. In fact, we released this one is actually 4 gigabytes of RAM. Then you find yourself running again, putting out £1,000 from your bank account to buy that latest phone just because you're trying to keep up with the trend. Then the same thing happens again. 6 months later, your phone has become so slow you can barely use it. You see what's happening to you? They are manipulating over your ignorance in order to enlarge their wealth. You are getting poorer, they're getting richer. This policy does not only work with men, it also works with government, it also works with society. For example, we know that in every country we pay income tax, right? We pay road tax, we pay this, we pay that, we pay national insurance and things like that. But then the road tax you're paying for gets to be used in creating new roads. And in the next 5 months, well, Thames Water comes up and says, oh, we have a burst pipe, we have to fix it. Then they start to break the same roads they had used your tax to repair, to fix. Then they leave it with potholes. Or maybe the tar or the repairs they do ends up not being as perfect as the road was before it was broken. Now, they've spent millions of pounds to repair the pipes. They're now counting on you to repair it. They come up and say, well, they've increased road tax by 2%. That comes out of your money, not the government's money. It comes out of your money. Now, they're making you poorer. Of course, we have to. I will insist we have to pay taxes because we're supposed to pay tax. We have to do it. I'm just trying to tell you that is how the devil indirectly sucks off money from society by making you spend money on things that are not necessary. Some of you might spend your money on clothes because you wanna be a celebrity. You wanna be a Kim Kardashian. You wanna be a Drake. You wanna be a whatever it is, and you fail to understand is people have already established their lives long before they even came out to become celebrities. And you're trying to copy them. So you find yourself spending £200 on a pair of shoes. That's not normal. It just doesn't make sense. Until you change your attitude towards money, money will never change its attitude towards you. You want to buy a watch for £1,000. What would the watch still shows you the same time as your old clock in the house? You got a phone that tells you the time. Do you know why you really do these things? You want me to tell the honest truth. You want to impress people. And I'm very sorry to say this to you. People don't really care about you. You want me to prove it? Go and meet any of your friends and ask them, what dress did I put on last Sunday? They would not remember. People don't care about you. Go and meet someone and ask the person, what is the number plate of my car? They will not remember. They don't care about you. The world is so full of troubles that people don't have enough time or enough luxury to focus on your life. You're trying to impress people with new shoes. No one really cares about your shoes. They might say it's beautiful, but trust me, they're more focused on themselves than you. Until you change that mentality, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to impress people who don't care about you. You have to start thinking like a person. If you're young and you want to be rich tomorrow, you have to change the way you think. You're 17 years old, you're 16 years old, and you're thinking about buying a car. Is that really relevant? Do you really need a car? Or you're just trying to buy it because you just want to show off to your friends? Is that necessary? You really don't need a car unless you have a family. You really don't need a car unless you have a lot of things to carry in the car. You don't need it. You need to check your motives before you spend money. Am I buying these because I'm trying to impress? Well, these goes to come, maybe you're going to a birthday party and you're trying to impress your friends. Just buy whatever you want. I'm going to pay for it. I got the money. Are you really spending that because you have the money or because you just want to show off and impress people? You have to stop the attitude of trying to impress people. No one really cares about you. As a matter of fact, by spending money and buying drinks for everyone doesn't make them respect you the more. It doesn't make them respect you. That's what I'll call public success but private failure. You know you're really struggling down, don't you? But you're trying to make people like you by spending money, by buying the latest iPhone because you want people to talk about you. You want people to praise you. You're going to get the public applause, but a private shoe. People will shush you in private. Next, if you want to be rich, invest your money. You could invest in a business, you can invest in something, you can invest in stocks, you can invest in anything. But just don't take your money and spend it here and there. Next, I've already mentioned this, avoid showing off. I'm not going to go into that. Next, avoid the spirit of borrowing. Borrowing. This could come in form of credit, taking credit or credit loans and things like that. Avoid borrowing. It's a very bad attitude. Avoid borrowing. Anybody who knows me knows I hate the word borrow. I hate it. Avoid borrowing. Even if it's just transport, make it a habit of not borrowing. Train yourself not to borrow. Always save up for tomorrow. Next, avoid envying others. And finally, have a spending attitude. Don't spend more than 25% of your earnings. Now, when I talk about more than 25% of earnings, of course I know, for example, if you're leaving your family home, you're not paying rents and things like that. Once your salary comes in, you take off your tithes, your taxes has gone out, the rest of it should go straight into your bank account. If you're pulling out any money from there, it should either be for your Oyster card or your transportation and things like that, but not to take it to go and buy stuff. And also learn how to eat at home. Eating outside costs people, in fact, it costs the average family almost £90 a month. Those who eat out, it ends up costing them an average of £90 a month. When you live with your family, that's the best time to save up for your future home, because you're not paying house rent. So you have enough grace and enough time to save enough money for your future. If you're still living in your father's house, your mother's house, and you've not saved enough money, then you're not a serious person at all. Believe me. In fact, I would recommend you have what I call a poverty line. Poverty line, in my definition, is the lowest amount of income that your bank account should never go below. For example, let's say you're 16 years old. You could decide to set your poverty line to be £5,000, meaning that your bank account should never at any time go below that amount. As you grow older, you get to 16, you could add £1,000. Your poverty line should become £6,000. You go to 17, your poverty line, 7,000. You go to 18, like that, and so forth. Now, each year, let's say the year ending 2018, let's say your account, the biggest amount that was in your bank account was £5,000. The next year, 2019, your poverty line should be £5,000, meaning your bank account should never go below that amount that year. Next year, let's say by the end of the year ending 2019, your bank account was the closing amount was £8,000. In the year 2020, your poverty line should be £8,000, meaning in the year 2020, your bank account should never go below £8,000. So you set these targets and make sure you don't break it. As you keep getting older, you find out you keep saving more and more. Before you know it, you start saving. You now have a minimum of £10,000 in your bank account, £20,000, £30,000, and so forth. That becomes your poverty line. And the poverty line, or £30,000, should never be touched at any time. That should be your poorest amount you have in your bank account. Leave it there. Let the interest grow. Don't touch it. And remove it from your mind. You've got one chunk of money somewhere you can always dive into. Because people save, but they're not faithful to their saving. Jesus said, if you're not faithful to that which is yours, who should give you that which is another man's? Who would entrust you with that which is your own? If you're not faithful to that which is another man's, who's going to entrust you with? If you're not faithful to your own income which you save, then you're never going to be rich at all. Because your attitude towards money is very bad. So when you save up money, don't touch it. Even if your body scratches, don't touch it. And avoid going looking online to see things you can buy. It's a very indisciplined and bad attitude. You put the money there, remove your mind from it. You can monitor it, but take off your mind from it. Because sometimes people fall into the temptation of they manage to save £5,000 Then after 1 minute, a little party comes up, they take out £4,000 and go and use it up, believing they're going to work hard again and then save that £4,000. Once you start becoming faithful in your income, trust me, you're getting to the boss of poverty. God bless you.